Good morning, family of Springville United Church and Hagersville United Church. I know we're in a different situation now, and here I am to present my sermon to you. So have a listen, and I hope you enjoy it. Here we are. First, it was suspended gatherings, 200 or less, and then it went down to 50. Barely 24 hours later, the Premier urged us to reduce groups to no more than 10 people. No more church. Upsetting. I found myself asking, what's next? You probably already know tons of people are working from home, staff members attend meetings using Zoom. We are at home isolation, major industries have halted production, malls have closed, acceptable personal space has been increased to 6 feet, and of course churches have been replaced with emails and YouTube worship services. What's next? Initially, my what next thoughts of steadily rising tide of anxiety within inside of myself. And then something happened. I had an aha moment. And that very question, what next, is the perfect, where is God in that question? It's the question to ask when you're looking for God in this messy, terrible, but beautiful world. Reviewing our Lenten journey, Jesus himself taught us for positive in all situations. Jesus was challenged by Satan, who would give him the power to rule over all the world. He stood strong even though he was starving and said, "No, it is written, do not put your God to the test." Then Jesus had a visitor one night, a lawyer named Nicodemus, a man of knowledge of the scriptures, seeking answers for some questions. Jesus told him he was a powerful teacher, but needed to understand that we all must be lifted up and believe. Ending with a powerful verse that we all know so well, John 3:16, "For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whoever believeth in him should not perish, but have everlasting life." Then Jesus and his friends met a man who had been born blind. His friends wondered aloud where God was in this. Could this man have sinned? Maybe it was his parents. His blindness could be God's punishment for something they did or failed to do. In other words, they asked, why did God do this? Jesus replied to this man, he did not sin, and so God and Jesus healed his blindness. Jesus also had an encounter with the Samaritan woman at the well. Jesus was resting by the well and she came to draw water. Jesus spoke to her, "Give me a drink." Much to her surprise, she asked why. Why would a Jew even speak to a Samaritan woman? Through their meeting and her excitement, she shared with many Samaritans from the city of Sychar, and they believed. This week, Jesus had been informed that one of his most beloved friends, Lazarus, was gravely ill. Before Jesus arrived, Martha got word that he was on his way, and she hurried to meet Jesus. Lazarus had died. Sadness availed, grief and tears. They led Jesus to the tomb in which Lazarus had been laid. All those who followed Mary and Jesus were amazed and moved by his love for his friend Lazarus. When they arrived at the cave, Jesus gave them instructions, "Roll the stone away," and Lazarus came out. Jesus told them to unbind him and let him go. Many of the people who had come with Mary and Martha to the tomb had seen what had happened and believed in Jesus. Lots of people ask why. When confronted by sad news or bleak circumstances, some wonder if God caused this current pandemic. But Jesus tells them that if they're looking for God in this messy world, why is the wrong answer to that question. In other words, ask a better question. Recognize how things actually are and then ask, what will God's love do about it? And how can I participate in that loving response? The vision of the Valley of the Dry Bones is a very familiar passage of scripture. He is speaking to the nation of Israel. He sees them as a dead nation. He promises this dead nation that one day will come when he will rise them from the dead and use them again for his glory. This is God speaking. When Ezekiel received this vision, he found himself surrounded by bones of the dead, Everywhere he looked, he saw dead people. He was commanded to preach to them. He was commanded to pray over them. And when he obeyed the Lord's command, Ezekiel saw all those dead bodies brought back to life. Like Ezekiel, we are surrounded by uncertainty. Everyone asking, what's next? Everywhere we look, there is evidence of the spiritual death that dominates our world. And like Ezekiel, we have been the strength and the faith to be sent out to tell the world that they can live. From where Ezekiel stood that day, his task must have seemed impossible. Yet he obeyed God and the Lord and blessed his efforts. From where we stand today, the task of reaching out to those who question, those who have little or no faith, also seems like an impossible task. If we will do as the Lord has commanded us, we will also see him bless our efforts. I'm not going to ask what's next anymore. This too will pass. Keep the faith. Hold on to all that is good in the world. God is with us. We are not alone. Thanks be to God.